Hi, my name is Michael. This is my first episode, and I'm here at Skookumchuck Narrows. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself and what's going on in the first video. First of all, about me, I'm a truck driver. I live in Nanaimo on Vancouver Island in British Columbia, Canada, by myself, single. And I bought a van about 3 years ago, and I decided to build it out while I lived in it, which was the worst decision I ever made. It's been a nightmare, but it's been really interesting and rewarding to learn all the things I've learned along the way. At any rate, as you're going to see in the build here, I didn't do any of it in chronological order. The order that I did, it doesn't really make any sense at all. It doesn't help when I have crazy ADHD and my motivation changes every 10 minutes. So I never really finished a single project in chronological order or from start to finish. Most everything I did, it took about 4 or 5 different times to get it almost finished. And right now in May of 2025, I'm still only about 90% done. And I started this in, I think it was 2022, late summer. So having said that, there's a lot of things that happened in my life when I started building this van related to work and personal life that dictated how I built out the van, and I'll kind of explain that as the build unfolds, so it'll make more sense for you. And as well, the different seasons impacted what I was doing, because it kind of gets cold here in the winter time. So I really did things kind of out of order, but it all came together. Thankfully, it's also somewhat working in the end. And I look forward to sharing it with you, and hopefully I can inspire you with a few of my ideas along the way. Somehow, transferring video from my computer to an external hard drive or online to like Google Photos, I somehow have lost a bunch of footage, which really sucks. So not the whole build is put, I don't have most of it on video like most van builds that you see, and I never bothered to record myself cutting wood up and screwing in screws or slapping down vinyl flooring. I didn't care to set up a camera stand for that. I was either too lazy to do it or too eager to get to work. And regardless, I just kind of talk about what I did, explain to you the things that I've learned along the way, mistakes I've made, and hopefully offer some decent advice or, if anything, some really cheap entertainment for you. All right, to start, I drive out. When I started building this van, I was driving truck during the week. I stayed in that truck. I didn't come back to the shop every day, so I was only in my van on the weekends. And so where I was, the only thing I had to work with was a drill and a saw, basically, and a hammer and a tape measure. So I didn't have a workbench. I didn't have anywhere to, I didn't even have electricity to recharge my batteries. I had to go to a local fruit stand and borrow their plug-in. So getting the floor in was a little on the crazy side there. And here's my brand new van. Well, brand new to me anyways. I just picked it up a little while ago, and I'm finally ready to start the conversion. The first job I did was take these cargo securements off. They're just bolted onto the side walls all the way down. There's lots of scratches here and there, so I'll be doing some touch-ups to take care of those. The sound deadening's already been done, and if you take a look around, There's not a lot in this van, and I've driven it about 10 hours empty, and it rides really quiet. And that's with nothing even on the doors. The next step is to deal with all these tiny little screw holes. When I bought this van, they had that black half-inch plywood on here, and they just screwed it right through the floor like that. Those very kind people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through this with a bit slightly bigger than the hole. Hopefully it'll get rid of the rust. Then I'll paint it with some rust paint, and then see if I can find some filler next time I go into town. So I got about 60 of these holes to drill out. I don't know if the drilling was really necessary or using a grinding wheel to get the surface rust off, but I did it anyways. Metal shavings feel great on the knee. Everything's painted over. I tried to make sure I got on the inside of the hole there as well. I've driven up about, I'd say, 50 kilometers of dirt road in my van today. And I've accumulated that much dirt. And I was planning on filling it with an epoxy in the spring. But after seeing this, that's crazy, 50 kilometers. And this is just behind my driver's seat. So this isn't even in the wheel well. Okay, I just finished using this two-part epoxy. You just squirted it into the container that it came in, mixed it up, and I just filled in all of the screw holes. I believe I was supposed to rough this up more than I did before I put the epoxy on, but we're gonna see how it sets. And I was a little on the liberal side with the epoxy. I figure I can always sand it down if it becomes a problem when I lay down my floor. So if you're curious, that's what I used. That's what I was recommended. Let's hope it goes well. On the underside, we just had a little blob of the two-part epoxy. You can see down there, there's a couple spots there. So it did sag through a little bit, but it seems to cover it up quite nicely. One of the things that I might have done wrong, I didn't learn about this till probably a year and a half after I did it, is I put the epoxy in the holes for the van floor. And I've been reading on, I don't know if it was a YouTube video or a forum somewhere, but somebody had been saying that I shouldn't have done that because if the epoxy separates from the floor, then you don't have that seal anymore. I was better off to use a silicone of some kind. He explained what kind it was, but I don't remember. So I don't know if that's true or not. I guess it's just a choice, and either it's going to work well for me or not, because, well, the van's done now. So I can't just take it apart to change it to putty or to a silicone. So I had thought about using a silicone, but I was worried that within like 5 years it wouldn't be any, it would need to be replaced, and I wouldn't be able to do it then. So either way, if it is an issue, I could probably just screw some screws up through from underneath and fill that hole in if I really wanted to, but in all honesty, I'm probably not even ever going to think about it again. I'm at the foyer here, laying out my 2x2 floor joists. I'm just making sure everything's the way I want it. Then I'll give it a good thorough blowing out tonight and then glue it in tomorrow. But I'm planning on having a recessed table. Comes right out of the foyer here. It's going to sit underneath the plywood flooring. I'm using doweling right here to hold the pieces together for when I glue them down. Table's 20 inches wide. I made it 48 inches in so that I can pull it out about 24 to 30 inches, so it still has lots of table inside underneath the floor to hold it in place, and then I'll probably have a leg that goes down to the ground to secure it. We'll see what happens after I get it finished. I've got two recessed tables underneath the floor. The first one is right over there, and the second one is right here, roughly 20 inches wide, 48 inches long. These little bumps stick out 3/8 of an inch higher than in between. So I'm using regular 2x2s for the boards that sit on top of the bumps, and I cut some 2x6s to 1 7/8 inches for the ones that have to lay down in between the bumps. Cut them all the length, and then I'm using 1/2 inch doweling. I just drilled through each one there and cut off about a 3-inch piece of doweling or so, and just to hold everything into place. Then when I glue it down, it should stay fairly solid. I'll glue everything, put it down, then I'll lay plywood on top with a bunch of weight, as you'll see momentarily, and cross my fingers and hope everything sits the way I want it to. Not sure how I'm going to deal with this heater yet, but I'll figure something out. Finished there, recessed underneath the floor. This piece of plywood will lay on top. This is a 2x2 here. I just notched it out 3/4 of an inch as a running board on each side. This piece and this piece are just sitting loose right now. They still got to be glued into place. And I added in this little extra piece of wood right here just for extra support for when you're walking in this area. It sits flush with the top of these running 2x2s. So I just had to make a little notch in it, but it comes out real nice. I made sure to taper off these ends right there and there a bit, just to make sure I don't catch this when I'm putting it back. But I was worried about the floor sagging, especially with the vinyl flooring going in, so I added in that extra little chunk of 2x2 and then just notched the table around it. And I'm glad I did that. That was a great little extra piece of support that gives me that extra peace of mind. So, and to this day, 2 years later, using that table, I've never seen the notched part. I don't ever have the table out that far. So 48 inches in, not a problem. And I don't even think I need to put a leg on the edge of it, to be honest. But granted, I haven't put anything really heavy on it yet either. So time will tell, I guess. I wanted to be a bit closer to the walls with my wood, but the sealant or the glue, whatever it is that they use to hold the van together, gets in the way. And there's a website, I think it's faroutride.com there, that's a couple that's engineers. They talk about not wanting your wood to touch the metal, otherwise you get squeaking. Wicked website, highly recommend checking them out. tons of great information. Workbench, it's going to recess out the back end, and then there's my foyer table that will come out the side so I can cook my eggs and stare at deer in the morning. It'll be so pretty. The heater, I would have liked to have insulated first before installing the heater, but doesn't matter why, it never got to happen. So I had to insulate around the heater. Pain in the butt, didn't do as good a job as I would have liked. It is what it is. It's insulated. This board, I screwed up cutting on here, so I've got another one. I'll do it right the second time here. That'll fit right across here. I don't know if it was a good idea to use a 2x6 because of the insulation value that I lose, but I wanted something strong here in case I got to stand up or anything heavy's got to go on the edge there. I wanted that extra support there. The reason, FarOutright.com engineers, they seem like very intelligent people. They did not recommend using wooden joists at all anywhere. They just literally ran solid insulation across, slapped their plywood on top, and then they fastened their cabinetry on top of that. And they claim that after several years they've had no issues. I wanted some extra meat for my cabinets to be screwed down into, so there's one going right there. There's another cabinet going all the way down there, so that's why I put those in. And then in order to have a table underneath the floor, I had to run those two in and these ones in. And then I just thought it'd be nice to give the plywood some support, so in a few places there, so that it didn't risk sagging. My concern was whatever kind of vinyl flooring I put in, I didn't want there to be any push on it unfairly that could risk damaging it. And I added in a few extra pieces going this way because my water tank's going to sit here, just to give it some extra support from below. So that explains the floor joists, whether they're necessary or not. I don't know. I'm not an expert at this. One thing to consider is you'll see when I get the plywood on, these little guys here need to be accessible in case you need to deal with whatever those wires are for. I'm not sure if it's grounding wires or what, but you have to be able to get that open to access it on both sides. So plan your flooring with allowances to be able to pull that out. In addition, I believe it was in Far Out Ride as well, this you crank down to lower your spare tire. The technician who fixed theirs did it wrong or something. That this, you can find the story on there, but this needed to be replaced, which means that they needed to gain access to the 4 bolts that are holding it together to pull it out. In addition, you need to be able to access that to be able to lower your spare tire in the event that you need it. So whatever you put over top of that, it's a good idea to be able to gain access to that. So I have no idea how I'm going to deal with that yet, but something needs to be cut out. I'm just going to part with some more footage of the Skookumchuck Narrows. Hopefully I'll catch the changing tide, and then we'll call it a video. Skookumchuck Narrows is a strait forming the entrance of Scheldt Inlet on British Columbia's Sunshine Coast in Canada. You are seeing the Scheldt Rapids, which are the world's second fastest tidal flow next to one in Norway. Twice a day it flows inward like this and then stunningly changes direction and actually goes back out again. On a high tide, up to 200 billion gallons, or roughly 750 billion liters of water passes through these rapids, where the difference in water levels from one side to another can exceed 2 meters or 6.5 feet in height. Current speeds can exceed 16 knots, which is equal to 30 kilometers an hour or 18 miles per hour. It is a very easy 2-hour-long hike in and out, where brave kayakers are also known to play. The trailhead is at the town of Egmont, and the name Skookumchuck means strong water in Chinook jargon.